Biopatrika, your very own science communication platform, bringing science closer to you in many ways. Today, SciConnect by Biopatrika welcomes all science enthusiasts to our podcast on science journalism. I, Pragya Gupta, my co-host Nikhil Tulsian, and our budding talent Ramya have been given the opportunity to speak to a science lover turned science storyteller, Miss Aswathi Pacha, about the art of communicating science to the general public.
Hi everyone. We have the pleasure of talking to Aswathi Pacha. She is a science journalist with the Indian Express currently. As a Twitter bio points, she was on her way to becoming an award-winning scientist, but then transitioned into a science communicator. Ashwati, fascinated by tiny microbes, pursued her BSc in microbiology and then her master's in marine sciences before turning to science journalism. She has over 4 years of experience with two national newspapers, The Hindu and The Indian Express. So, Ashwati, from the great career shift you had from the academia to journalism, and from the depth of the ocean to the depth of another ocean, the journalism, can you tell a bit about yourself?
Okay. So as you said, I really wanted to be an award-winning scientist. So after my MSc, I joined as a junior research fellow at Pondicherry University. I was planning to write the entrance exam for PhD. I did write NET and failed. And then also I was unsure what I wanted. So I just kept writing all these entrance exams. I even wrote a Kerala Public Service Commission exam. So it was at that point, one of my colleagues came to me and said, there is this opportunity for science journalism. That was the first time I've ever heard that word. She told me it's organized by ISA Pune and British Council together. They were conducting it. So I just applied, and by chance I got selected, and they were like, two levels of workshops. So we went to Pune, there were these trainers and they told us everything about science journalism. They taught us from the beginning, like how to read a research paper, how to break it down, how to understand your audience, how to bring storytelling. So all these together, that was when I first heard about science journalism and knew what exactly it is. And after the workshop, they had asked us if you would like to take this as a career or intern somewhere and explore more. And since I was at that point where I was unsure what I wanted, I was like, okay, let's give this a try, explore alternate career options. So yeah, then I interned at the Hindu for almost 9 months. And then I joined as a sub-editor there. And after almost 4 years, now I've moved to the Indian Express. Yeah, this was my great career shift.
That is great, Ashwati. As a scientist myself, we think of just publications and publications of manuscripts to the big journals, and but at least I personally do not think more of the science journalism as well. But the last 2 years have made me realize otherwise. It is
Yeah,
amazing to have a career shift like this and at the right time.
yeah, it just happened at the right time. I happened to be lucky.
Yeah, so it looks like you had pretty much of conflict in your brain when you were doing the transition.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
correct.
So after
The-
you made that decision, I mean, I think the internship helped you a lot. I wanted to ask that how was your experience with the Hindu? I mean, because in the lab you have different set of challenges like experiment failing and things not working, reagents not arriving. So, what was the challenges you faced in journalism at the Hindu?
Yeah, so when I joined, I had absolutely no clue what it was apart from that 2 weeks of workshop I had. So that's the first time I'm seeing a newsroom, what happens in the editorial team. That is such a lively place, different from what your lab is like. So yeah, it was intriguing, but then I was lucky to have Dr. Prasad, science editor at the
Mhm.
Hindu, help me out. So I remember I would like send him 5 pitches. I'm like, so there is this paper, let's write about this. And he'll call me to his room and tell me why 3 of those papers won't work. Or he'll tell me, do you even understand this is a predatory journal? I'm like, okay, sorry, I didn't look at it. Or he'll be like, do you know when this was published? This is published in 2000. You're wanting to write this. I'm like, sorry, I didn't look at the publication date. And then he'll finally narrow it down to one story and he'll be like, okay, talk to the scientist, write about this. And then I'll write and he'll get back to me with 10 other questions. He's like, don't write as a scientist, write as a reporter, like tell a story. Imagine you're telling about this experiment to a child or your mother or someone like that. So have that in mind and write. So it comes back again. Then I again make few changes, goes back to him. And in the beginning, it was difficult, very difficult, because words you think that everyone knows, like the jargons. Yeah. So it was difficult dropping them. So anytime I write a word, I still have to put it in bracket and explain what it is, or try and like bring a comparison and explain what I'm trying to explain. So yeah, those initial days were difficult, but I was lucky to have Prasad sir help me there. And after that, it's been a pretty smooth ride.
So Prasad sir has been your mentor.
Yeah,
We all need mentors in our lives. And you mentioned
absolutely.
about the predatory journals and the need of journalism, of promoting science to layman. And that is what we are doing here through Biopatrika and SciConnect.
So Aswathi, like being a science communicator involves a lot of jobs. Like you have to wear multiple hats, like do multitasking, writing, publishing, and then handling social media platform and creating maybe videos. So how do you manage it? Like, and you also have strict deadlines, like you publish every Sunday explainer. So how do you deal with the stress?
Stress comes with every job. I am sure you're also stressed about your things happening in the lab. So yeah, it's there. But I think one thing is you enjoy what you do, and that takes care of most of it. And then for social media, we have a team. For video production, also we have a team. So it's mostly teamwork. So yeah, all those together have been helpful. Yeah.
As you mentioned, during when you're writing in any article, you have a team. You have to do various background checks, fact checks, and do various post processing. Do you think having a science background to the listeners helps in curating a story?
Yeah, so having a science background does help in certain times. Like I studied biology, so I am better at writing my articles if it has something to do with microbiology or if it's ocean related. But I do write other stuff, like if it's a chemistry or a physics or astronomy, I have to spend hours reading, trying to understand. And also it helps to go back to the researcher, talk to them, understand why they did what they did, how they did. So most of the times, yeah, I am learning every day. So the science background does help. Like I think a person who comes out of a lab does have this critical thinking. You're like tuned to ask more questions. You always are intrigued by something new. So coming from that background does help in those areas. But yeah, I'm still learning every day. I
So
learning
as
about
we,
different
so are
topics.
we.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like asking questions is very important. That's a very good point. Moving on, Aswati, how was your experience during the COVID pandemic? Like anything changed for you? Any extra hurdles you faced in writing stories or getting in touch with people?
Actually, COVID made us all work from home. So one thing I miss is meeting the scientist in person. But another good thing that has happened is most of our conferences, your science conferences, have moved to an online platform. So all of us have easy access to it, and we are able to read more online. So it's been okay. The COVID period has been okay. I didn't face big hurdles.
So
So
you like working from home?
Didn't you all?
I think so. I hope I could, but we had to come to the lab.
Okay.
so you mentioned about this COVID, and you didn't face any hurdle, but was it more beneficial to you? Like you can spend more time on any of these things? like promoting science and working more like scouting articles and other things, or talking to people, because even the people themselves were free to respond to these things.
No, but actually, scientists weren't free. Most of them were held up. But yeah, it did help to be at home and work at your pace. And actually, I was working more overtime. But still, yeah, I could. Most of our interactions have started becoming online. Like there is always Zoom meetings and again, as I mentioned, the conferences that usually happen at a university or somewhere in a faraway location, now it's all happening online, so you have easy access to it. Yeah.
Like even now we are sitting in 4 different places and having a chat.
Yeah.
Actually, it was quite fascinating, like being a PhD student and listening about science journalism is like complete transition. And like from your words, I can feel that it's a science journalism plays a very big role in academics, especially. Um, like I have seen that you have been working from 4 years for now. Like anytime did you feel that is it very hard to get in touch with scientists, or do you feel any like somewhere that okay this is not working the way you want? Like do you have any special tips?
In the beginning, yes, I wouldn't get a reply from a scientist because my signature said intern at the Hindu, and I don't know if they took me seriously and they were just like, ah, some intern is writing to me, let's ignore that kid. So, but now it has changed. Like, I think, and also one more thing Prasad sir always said is ask the right questions, ask questions that make the researcher want to answer. So those things help. Like I've stopped sending mails like, hi, I enjoyed reading your paper. It was a nice work. I have 2 questions. Can we talk? I've stopped doing all that. I just say, hi, this is a nice work. These are the 10 questions I have. Please answer. So when you ask the right questions, you get the right answers. And yeah, there have been so many scientists who ghosted me, people saying that I'll get back to you and never wrote back, or someone saying I'll call you and never called me. And even if I call them, they're like, listen, I'm very busy, I can't talk to you. And they're like, get permission from the director before I talk to you. And I'm just like, no, I don't want to do all that. So yeah,
Wow.
there have been different difficult times. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I mean negative response weighs you down, but when you get a one positive response, that's just done. That does the work, and you get all the motivation back to like
Yeah.
get on top of it.
I remember telling my mother, this scientist retweeted me, and I was like, okay, and that small act like gets you happy.
Yeah, small
And
moments of joy.
yes, exactly. Or some kid writing to me saying, I read this article about this dinosaur that I didn't know. I was very happy reading about it. I'm like, okay. So yeah, small joys.
Yeah, that is totally valid in the real world. Like people talking and asking the right questions, and it's quite required to know what to ask and what not to ask. According to you, Ashwati, what are the few key criteria or skills that one should have to be a successful science communicator or a journalist? Any tips to our listeners who pursue science journalism as their career?
One thing I would say is to be curious, be ready to learn, read more, write more. Yeah, these things come with practice. Like, I'm sure if I go back and read the articles I've written 4 years ago, I'll now think I could have done it better. So, with practice, it does help. Like, if you're seriously considering taking up science journalism, I would say, like, start pitching to magazines or newspapers, talk to scientists, understand their work, even start a blog or something and keep writing. And I'm sure like once you start writing, you will start learning how you can put it better. Like there have been so many times like my colleagues have come back to me and said, I didn't understand this para. I don't know what you were trying to say. So I try to rephrase it and get back to them and ask, now do you understand? They're like, this is much better. You could have done this that way. So when you keep writing, when you keep getting response from people, you improve. So yeah, be curious, ask questions, read,
So
write. Yeah.
So being curious, practice, and get feedback, and also be humble with people. So those are the key criteria. We all will remember because we all are into this field now, and we are stage not as experienced as you.
Exactly.
I'm also just a beginner science journalist. I'm still learning.
Exactly, I was telling. So even we are doing that now. When we write a manuscript from version 1 to version 70, it keeps on iterating and iterating and improving the English. Yeah, so same in science journalism, but for you, it is keeping it more simple. For us, it is keeping it more scientific and more abrupt.
On a different note, Aswathi, recently you have covered many topics around the climate change, which is an emerging and increasing global crisis. So it's very important to bring the right facts in the light and to make people aware for the change happening around us. So can you shed some light? What is your take on this?
Climate change is real. Climate change is happening. It's happening now. So yeah, next week we have our COP26. So we'll have more news coming out, more reporting needs to be done here. Another thing that I recently learned, or I attended one training on climate change reporting, and we need to shift our reporting from just like doom and gloom narrative, like an event happens, then you report on it. There is somewhere a forest fire, then you report on it. There's somewhere a flood and flash flood, and you report on it. It needs to move from that. We need to understand that it's happening on a daily basis. We need a column every day to tell people what's happening across the globe. So yeah, we need more climate change reporting now. More than climate change, it's more to climate crisis, climate emergency. So yeah, I'm sure that
the weather has changed drastically, and we deal with more frequent tornadoes and earthquakes and all the natural calamities. And I think there's a lot of fake and incorrect news floating in the air, and it's very important to clear the confusion and make the general public aware of what is true and what does this climate change actually means. Everybody knows like plastic pollution, global warming, that's all, but there are other things too which adds on the climate change aspect. So it's really important to like spread. You're doing a wonderful job in this aspect. I would say that it's very important to make people aware that it is not only restricted to plastic pollution or global warming, it's more than that. Like you studied the permafrost thawing and the repercussions of it. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was also interesting to speak with him. Like it's very interesting when you get to talk to scientists who are so passionate about what they do and they want to talk about what they do. So that was an interesting interview I had with him. Yeah.
Exactly. So I can relate. Like in the beginning of this year, there was a big fire in Australia, right? And whatever the news communicated, we could think that it is quite bad. But actual situations, not it wasn't very clear what is exactly happening. And this is important for communicating, like not just with the world news, but also in science. And why I'm telling that is because in most manuscripts what we or papers what we publish the positive part, but publishing negative part or communicating not may not be publishing but communicating the negative part and what has failed saves a lot of time. I think that kind of communication has to be promoted.
Also, Aswathi, I was curious that when you write an article, like what is your thought process behind it? I mean, you definitely, it's very clear that you put the common man in your perspective when you're writing the articles. Can you like share something about what are your sources, or how do you come up with the fact check articles?
Sources, obviously, it's been published papers or press releases, and now social media has been very helpful. Like most of the scientists are on Twitter or Facebook, and they put out when they publish a paper. And I think the scientists have also started becoming great communicators now. Like I've seen so many great threads explaining their research, and I'm like, wow, I should have written an article like that. But yeah, so social media has been a great source, and I get back to them via social media itself, asking, can we talk more about it? So yeah, mostly I depend on published papers or conference also when they present their findings. I get back to them and try to ask more about it. Yeah.
Mm. So yeah, you cover like a lot of different areas of topics like natural or animal related or environment related. So on a very different note, I mean, the science behind Indian culture and mythology has always piqued my interest. So like the concept of Dashavatar or the concept behind the various rituals and festivals and the traditions. So will I be reading some fact check articles from Aswathi Pacha on soon? Or is it too risky to write?
No, I'm not a scientist, so I don't think I will be going and studying it. But if I find a paper that explains why this temple was built here, or if this pillar follows laws of physics, maybe I can get back to the scientist, ask them more about it, and get to the science of it. Other than that, I don't know if I'm qualified to write more about that.
Okay, so we might have to wait some more
Yeah.
time.
Thank you, Ashwati, for the amazing insights into what science journalism is and how to think of journalism in a third person perspective and not just as a scientist or as a journalist itself. As a take home, we have to be intrigued, ask a lot of questions, ask the right questions, and not shy from talking to people. What are your final words, Ashwati, to our audience and listeners for them to definitely take up science journalism?
Definitely take up science journalism. Yeah,
Follow
I think.
Ashwati.
Yeah, please follow me. No, but I think most of the kids nowadays are becoming good communicators. Like even on TikTok or Instagram Reels, I see people telling science stories. So kids these days have become good communicators. I'm sure they can become good science communicators as well. So yeah, if you're passionate about it, just start reading, start writing. I'm sure you'll get there soon, quicker than I did, and not take like a roundabout way to read science journalism. I'm sure that we have courses on science journalism as well, which I wasn't aware of then. But yeah, maybe seriously consider studying science journalism and then coming. That can also work. But then if you're even if you have like a BCom or BBA and you still love science, you're welcome.
Yeah, it's not late to switch.
Yeah, never.
Yeah. Thank you, Ashwati, for the kind words. And I feel you are quite active on social media, and our listeners will definitely contact you back on social media. It was nice talking to you, Ashwati Pacha.
Okay,
Thank you
thanks
so
a lot,
much.
Nikhil. Thank you, Pragya.
Aswathi, great
Thank
talking to
you.
you.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Aswathi.
you. Yeah, bye.